No, the sound's gone. Has the sound gone? No? We've got
Yes,
sound.
the sound's gone. Oh, there we go. It's
There we go.
back.
Whew! Ah.
So mellow this morning, aren't we?
Aren't we just? Yeah, there we go. So let's just double check we're all good. So we're all fine and dandy. So welcome to Leaders Live, folks, and I'm Andrew Jenkins, and this is a short countdown timer just to help the various feeds catch up and to settle down, as well as to allow us to settle down, because we're never quite sure we've gone live. So we can't wait for today's groovy show, folks. We're just waiting for all the feeds to come up so that we know where we are. Let's just check the feeds. Where are we? There we go. So, oh yeah, and we are live.
LinkedIn feeds up.
LinkedIn feeds up. That's what we want to see. So brilliant.
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. I'm just trying to get my LinkedIn feed working. Where is it? Plop. There we go. Super. Okay. So, and yeah, we're hanging out with Nikki Wild today, Director of Wild Empowerment, folks, de-stressing directors and making business positive and productive and profitable. Give us a quick wave, Nikki, and a quick hello.
Hello, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hello.
We've just been in the Discord Backstage Rowdies group, which was quite good fun. And today we're chatting about business coaching, grow your people to grow your business, folks. And this is our sponsorship video. And there we go. Yeah! So I hope you like the jingle, folks, following the countdown. And yeah, Your DMS are our sponsors, and we're delighted that we're being powered by Your DMS, our Leaders Live sponsor. Yeah, we're so excited about that. And more about Your DMS as we go through the show, folks. So, oi, oi, people, and hi gang, and it's Leaders Live showtime again, folks. And it's just after 8:45 a.m. UK here in the UK. And so we are live with Leaders Live, spreading the love, folks, spreading the love. And yeah. So, and if you're new to Leaders Live and you don't know me, as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and Leaders Live is an interactive and dynamic weekly talk show that generates business through networking, community, and extraordinary conversations that inspire us. And our motto here is I to the power of we. So, yeah, and we're streaming out on multiple channels all simultaneous today. Gosh knows how it all works together and how it hangs together, but we just hope that it does. And yeah, today, including we're on live on DMS's company page too, as well as my own website, leaderslive.tv website too. So you can watch in loads of places. Don't you just love tech, hey? And I think that probably deserves a... Yeah, wow. And if you like what you see, or you want to say thank you for all the effort that goes into putting this free show together, then you can buy me a coffee too, folks. It's called buymeacoffee.com/Leaders Live, and the link's in the chat. It's an awesome little app. Let me just give you a little test run to see what it looks like. It's just really smart. So if you buy me a coffee, you get your name up in lights here, and it's just a bit of fun. So please feel free to buy me a coffee. We'd love that. And we can celebrate that straight away on the show. Links in the chat. So interactive show, folks, as I've said. And so please get involved, join in, ask questions. You can see there's loads going on the feed already. And with a live community and even a little friendly banter. So for all you regulars, lead the way, show how we roll. Smash those likes as well and those thumbs up too, folks. We'd really appreciate that. It keeps us motivated too. And please, please follow our company page on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Leaders Live YouTube community for all updates, and all that will be in the chat as well. So, phew, put it all together. What do you got? Bibbidi, bibbidi, bobbidi boo. You'll be singing that song all day. So, quick hello to everybody who's just joined in. Morning, Jonas. Morning, Joe Cooper. Yeah, morning, Maria Jeffers. Morning, Dr. Ian Price, fantastic. And yep, just say good morning to us. We'd love to hear from you. So that's really useful. So we've got a lot of people listening today, so we'd love to hear from you. Morning, Paul. Morning, Caroline. Fantastic to see you again. Yeah, please let us know who you are. So that just really helps us. So yeah, what's happening today? So we're talking to my mate, Nikki Wild, Director of Wild Empowerment, and our theme is business coaching today and how to grow your people, how to grow your business. Ooh, how are you doing, Nikki?
I'm doing well. Look, good to see. It's good to be back. I can't believe it was May that I was last hanging out in Leaders Live. It seems to have gone so quickly.
Doesn't it just? And we were talking about the Great Resignation then, Nikki. So
We were.
We were indeed. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about where you're heading today then, Nikki. Give us a little bit of a flavour, big picture. Draw us the picture.
Yeah, so business coaching is such a broad tool. It talks about the commercial side, the cultural side, the whole aspects, but our focus today is growing people to grow business. It's all very well saying, I want to grow my business. What does that actually mean? And actually, pretty much everything in a business, no matter how automated, how mechanized, there are people involved in the business somewhere. And if you want to grow that business, you're going to have to grow the people at the same time. So that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah, and I think that deserves a... And... Oh, yeah, and business coaching, it's a really useful and practical subject for business leaders, senior people, and anyone wanting to grow to the next level, folks. And I'm a high performance coach too, so I really get Nikki, and Nikki and I have been mates for a long while now, since probably 2009 we reckon. So yeah, so we've known each other all that time, and I've used coaching many times to advance my own thinking in my own business and my career too. What say you, Nikki?
Yeah, I think one of the things I get told time and time again by the owners, the senior leaders that I work with in organizations is that the coaching space is it's their private space. That's the one time that they get to switch off from everything that's going on, unplug from everything the day to day, and it's all about them. It's just that headspace, which most of us don't get unless we've consciously put a slot in the diary to shut out the world. And most people have got a mate that they'll chat to about stuff. They might have friends and family who they can turn to if they need to offload about things. But most people's mates will say, this is what I think you should do, which is, if I was in your shoes, I would do this. But you're not in my shoes. Quite often don't want to worry the family by offloading to them because they don't want them to stress. Yay, coffee.
Hey, coffee. Yeah, brilliant.
And they probably don't want to talk to others in the business because if they're stressing or worried about something, they don't want to let on to the rest of the leadership team or to the owner that they're worried about something. So having that sort of leadership space, coaching space, is their safe haven, if you like, to work through stuff. As coaches, we are the impartial ally. We're behind the scenes, sitting there with that, just giving them that opportunity to work through whatever it is that they need to work through, focus on, set the targets, set the course corrections. And particularly with owners and senior leaders, those further down the chain assume the ones at the top have got it sorted and they've got a plan and they know what they're doing. And they'll tell us what to do. So, of course, sometimes that's not always quite as clear as it ought to be. So we give them that space to sort that out.
And it's confidential as well. And, all sorts of things. So, I used coaching a lot for my early promotions. So I wanted to work that through with somebody. Maria Jeffers, who's on today, she's going to be talking about limiting beliefs at some point with us. And Maria just says this very quickly. Brilliant. This is what I'm all about too. So thank you so much for highlighting both personal and organisational benefits of coaching. Yes, Headspace. Steve Whittle, who's with us later on. I'll talk about Steve in a minute. It's lonely at the top. I'm guessing. Lol. And great points. This might be someone. I think that might be Guy. I'm not sure. Great points, Nikki. So there we go.
It's Guy.
It's Guy. Thank you. Yeah, I'm going to introduce our moderator in a moment. So just get us going, Nikki. You've got a couple of questions for us that we're going to quick fire together, aren't we? So what are your questions for the audience?
So 2 quick questions and this is just a finger in the air kind of gut feeling. What percentage? I don't want an analytical. I'm going to go so just as a feel, what percentage of your business success depends on you collaborating with others and the people in your business? So if your business is going to be successful, whatever organization you are in right now, what percentage of that success depends on humans? So that's our first quick question.
Nice.
Just give us a quick feel, whether it's, let's say, we don't want to analyze statistical figure, just give us a gut feel. What percentage?
Yeah, and then follow up with your second question as well, so we can have them as a 1, 2.
Yes, so the second one is, approximately, if you take all the cost of staff in your business, what percentage of that staff cost is spent on people development?
There you go. Brilliant. Okay, and answers are coming
Oh, we're
streaming in
getting some
right now. So that's brilliant.
other percentages.
So Bertie's popped the questions in. We're getting lots going on. We'll come back to those in a moment. There's just a slight delay in the feed, so we'll just let the feed catch up with itself in a minute. And I'll come back to you as well just in a tick, Nikki. So just to... let's just introduce our fantastic moderator today. We just love having Birdie Hugo in our room.
I'm just busy typing the questions because Andrew, you gave me the wrong questions today.
Oh, I gave you the wrong question. So whoops. Oh dear. Thank you. Right.
But it proves we're live. It's all good.
That's just to keep. We love keeping Birdie on her toes. So yeah. Brilliant. Thank you. Sorry about that, Birdie. Are you done yet?
Yes, I'm done. Thank you.
We love a bit of banter on this show. So yeah. Thank you, Birdie.
Goodness gracious.
Goodness gracious.
Anyways, good morning, everyone.
Yeah. Good morning, we say to you too.
Andrew's just keeping me here on my toes this morning, right. Seems like, and not me keeping him on his toes.
That's right. We love doing that on this show. We love doing that. So, yeah, and as mentioned, Leaders Live is an interactive show, folks. So please join in. Don't be shy. Use the comments for these questions and, engage with us during the show so we can see lots going on in the show. We'll pick those up in a moment. And for you regulars, set the example, show how we roll. And just so you know, we have the Get to Know You. Let me just bring this slot up here. We've got the Get to Know You in 5 interlude slot on Leaders Live again today, folks, called Your DMS Get to Know You in 5, where we briefly feature a regular on the show so that we can get to know each other, put a face to a name, etc. more each week. So yeah, wow. And today's show, we are showcasing Leaders Live regular contributor Steve Whittle. Steve is Cooper Parry's events and experiences lead. He's also a coffee snob, just like me, and a proud mental health first aider. A very important job these days. And we will feature a lot about this. We do feature an awful lot about mental health on this show. Really strong links to everything that we do. And Steve took part in the London Marathon yesterday, at least I understand so, raising money for a very important and serious cause. And we'll be talking about that a little bit later on. And he needs our help as well, folks. So just to say that's coming up. So, and Steve will be joining us live during the short halfway intermission, where we also shout out our fabulous sponsor, Your DMS, just so you know. Right, there we go. Right, let's bring our fantastic guest up again. So here we go, Nikki Wild. So just before you begin, I hope you enjoyed that groovy build-up, and let me just give you a round of applause. There we go. Feel the love, feel the love.
All good. It's a fantastic way to start the day, hanging out here.
Isn't that? Yeah, and you'll be clearing up this confetti for ages, my friend. So, yeah. We asked the question, we asked the audience some questions, didn't we?
We did. I've just been having a skim down the chat to look at some of the
Let's just bring Birdine back again and she can lead us through this. What's happening in the chat then, Birdine?
Okay, I'm just going to start off here with Joe. So Joe said sometimes in middle management, you can't always go to the top. And the focus, you say, Nikki, the staff you manage expect you to know. And then she said after the first question, she said, I'd say 90%.
Yeah.
Jonas said 100%. Maria, 100%. Guy, 100%. Caroline, 100%. Steve Whittle said humans are the most important part of any success.
Yeah.
And then after the second question, Shane Ward said 80%. Guy helped me out there with the question. Thanks for that. Maria said, I am my business. I have spent over 10K on my own development in the last 18 months.
There you go.
Ian said, yes, humans being beautifully complex and predictably unpredictable.
My mate Ian that. Price. Yeah, I love that. How are you doing, Ian?
Yeah. Caroline said, I don't have staff, but put investments in my own development and CPD. And then it's just Dave Williams said, good morning, Andrew and Nikki. And to myself, good morning, Dave.
Good morning.
Ian said maybe 10 to 20% after the last
Yeah,
question.
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And Guy comments and said, staff development is Way's monthly company to staff self-upskilling.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Guy. Great.
Yeah.
Good morning,
And
Guy
then-
from South Africa. Fantastic to see you again.
And then Maria just said hi to Steve. Joe said, love the love here. And
Love
Steve
the
said,
love.
people are everything and everything else is infrastructure.
Yeah. I love this
Nice, there we
comment.
go.
Joe comment. Love the love here. Spread the love. Yeah. Yabba dabba do. Brilliant. Okay. Lovely. So what say you then, Nikki?
I I'm going to start at the bottom and work backwards. I
Yeah,
think
don't
Steve's
blame you.
comment is that it. People are everything. Everything else is infrastructure, and your infrastructure might be a big chunk of it, but actually, without the people, it's kind of like an engine without the oil. It's just going to grind to a halt.
Yeah.
And when if we're going to look after the people in the business, I don't know if anyone else has had the same thing that I have had. A few of you have said people are the most important part of a business. I have worked in places where you hear the CEO giving the annual talk to the company, and they'll be sitting there and say, people are our greatest strength or our greatest asset.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, yes, that's great that you're saying that now, but the other 364 days of the year, we feel like we are overlooked, unappreciated, undervalued, all of those things. You kind of think, why are you not treating us in alignment with what you've just said in your annual speech? I mean, they used to write it in the annual report, and we'd read it going, are we in the same company that you're talking about here? And I think that's the problem, is sometimes we don't give enough attention to looking after the people in the organization. I love that when I asked the question, what proportion of your staff cost is people development, I'm delighted that nobody wrote zero.
Yeah.
So there is some people development going on, and whether that's people investing in themselves, as a couple of people have said, or whether it's the organisation looking at everybody. I'm pleased to see that there is some people development going on. In my experience, the quality and the effectiveness of that people development is variable at best. One of the things we talked about back in May was those different levels at which we operate. And if we are just telling people what to do, we're at that kind of instructional level. Whereas if somebody's not working well, we'll chuck them on a training course. We'll give them a bit we'll give them a bit of capability. But what we're not doing is going up to the higher levels where we get to understand the people. We find out what's going on under the surface. What's making them tick? What are their fears? What are their concerns? What are their motivations? And in our 5-minute interval, that subject of mental health is going to be so important when we're thinking about how do we grow people to grow the business.
Brilliant. Well done.
I put 5 pillars of a profitable business. I wrote this ebook about quite a few years ago now. But right of those 5 pillars, there are 2 pillars: product and purchases that bring. Perfect.
Look at that. This
Right
is by
on
magic.
cue.
Yeah.
Love it.
Come magic stick.
It's fabulous. You've got the product and the purchases, which are the 2 things that bring money into the business. You've got on the other side, you've got all the processes and the plans for the business, but slap bang in the middle, that middle pillar is the people. And I deliberately put it as pillar number 3, right in the heart of the business, because people are at the heart of everything that we do. And so, yes, as I say, that's that little summary phrase that Steve put in. People are everything. Everything else is infrastructure.
Love that. Yeah, love that. And just to catch up where there's bits and pieces just going on in the chat, just to catch that up before we get to the next questions. I've just lost Birdine for a moment. Birdine, what's going on in the chat while I just find you? There we go. Gotcha.
Dave said, quite agree, Nikki. Lip service like it is on autopilot.
Yeah.
And then he also said, totally agree about the effectiveness of training as well.
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Okay. Thank you. Yep. Super. And Shane's just popped this in. And
Shane just said, we can only give what we have. So upgrading ourselves yields the opportunity to give more. However, I think of greater importance is leaders' ability to harness the diverse collective intelligence of the group by inviting their participation in conditions of trust and psychological safety.
That's beautiful. Love that. Yeah, I'm just absorbing that actually. Any thoughts, Nikki?
Absolutely. Excuse me. I'm nodding along.
Yeah,
I'm
nodding
going,
along, and
yeah,
I am too. Yeah.
absolutely. I'm thinking I just want to copy and paste that comment.
Well, we'll see what we can do for you on that. We'll copy and paste that. Shane, well, it's actually in the chat, so we can copy and paste it later. So thanks for that,
Yeah.
Shane.
So,
Brilliant.
but I think it is what we're talking about, isn't it? You upgrade yourself if you are going to be able to give more or give differently. Then we evolve and we grow and we learn, and we all know things today that we didn't know yesterday, and we will know things tomorrow that we don't know now.
Yep,
One of
such is learning.
my mentors years ago said, learn from the person who's a step ahead of you and assist the person who's a step behind you. And that has been my kind of philosophy ever since. I think it's a brilliant way of thinking about it.
Oh, let's have that again, Nikki. Say that again one more time for us so we hit that. That hits us.
Learn from the person who's a step ahead of you, help the person who's a step behind you.
Isn't that lovely? There you go. That is the essence of, good people development. But the thing is, Nikki, and here's one of the questions I've got for you. So, look, if a business is focused on commercial growth, why not make that the primary target? What's all this people stuff really about? Why is it that important, Nikki? What say you? Take it away. Challenge me on that.
I get the commercial growth. I was a finance director. I know the importance of numbers in business, and absolutely that has its place.
Right.
And the thing is, delivering whatever targets and commercial growth the business sets for itself, if it hasn't got the buy-in of the people who are going to be exercising that and delivering those results, we can all pluck a number as a target out of thin air, but if nobody's believing in it, bought into it, motivated to achieve it, then the business is never going to deliver as well as it possibly could. I kind of think of it like an apple orchard. If my business is growing apples, if I leave nature to take its course, I'm going to get apples come harvest in the autumn. But if I look after the orchard and I nurture it and I tend to it and I prune it and fertilize it, I'm going to get a fantastic harvest. And it's kind of like the people in the business are like that. They're kind of like your fruit trees. If you don't nurture your fruit trees and look after them, then the harvest is going to be way down compared with where it could have been if you took care of the people. So it's all very good setting apple targets, but you need to look after the orchard.
That is beautifully said. I really like that. And, there speaks an FD and, ex-FD now, but, that's a massive mindset, Well, I don't know whether it's a shift or what, Nikki, but clearly something has motivated you to see, not just the bottom line, but also the bottom line can be enhanced by looking after the orchard and not just letting default human behaviours rule, right? They're actually, with a little bit of training and development, you get the best out of people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I was curious about that sort of proportion of investment in developing the people, because people in most organizations, people are the most expensive line. If you look at the set of accounts, as I do frequently, my clients, I still look at their numbers and we have the numbers conversations, and people is usually a fairly hefty expense in an organization. So you want to make sure from the business point of view that you're getting a return on your investment. But just sitting back and expecting that to deliver is, in my experience, is missing a trick. If you put in that extra bit of investment, you get way more back in spades. So I'm a huge advocate for investing in the people. If you want to grow the business, grow the people.
Invest in your orchard. Yeah,
Yep.
And then you grow more apples. Beautifully said. I really like that. That's so good. Birdie, let's just give Nikki just a quick break. There seems to be some activity going on in the chat. Let's just pick that up.
Yeah, we've got Guy saying, as a leader, you need to go to great lengths to let your team know how you tick, why, etc., and then ask your team members to give input on their approaches. Then a sound foundation is established regarding a good working relationship. Yeah. And then he said at the bottom, almost like the Chinese bamboo story, the story that you're telling now, Nikki. Yeah. Joe Cooper said, learn and assist is perfect.
Yeah, I like that too.
And then Kathy Heath, good morning,
Kathy. Yeah, good morning.
Said, She said, for me, the underlying priority is taking care of employee well-being.
Yeah.
I see lots of suppliers tackling engagement, reward and recognition, learning and development, ESG separately, but they all tie back to well-being and how we are physically and mentally made up, which influence how we perform or don't. Definitely look after that orchard.
Perfect, yeah. And Kathy is the CEO of Healthy Minds Club, and I'm on her board actually. So yeah, morning, Kathy. Great to see you. Lovely. What else is going on?
Yeah. And then we've got Caroline just agreeing with Shane, saying everyone has something unique to offer and teach to colleagues and management alike.
Lovely, yeah. Thanks, Caroline. And Guy, if you're still listening, just remind us what that Chinese bamboo story is. I think I know it, but yeah, it'd be nice to just get some input from you on that one, so we can share it with the group. So, Nikki, where does people coaching fit into your business coaching model?
It's interesting because when I'm invited into a new client, there are usually two things that are the triggers that bring it in. One is they're not making enough money, and they
Okay.
talk to me because I understand numbers, or the people are not playing nicely together, which is one of my that's my extended strapline. I de-stress directors and I get their teams to play nicely together, and so they are frustrated because they're not getting the best out of the people,
Yeah.
and pretty much most of the time, I won't say always, but most of the time, the reason that they're not getting out they're blaming the people, and actually it's the behaviour of the person that I'm talking to that's where my start point for sorting that out. So they're blaming the people, but exactly as has just been said in the chat, they haven't been given clear direction. People haven't been given the why are you doing what you're doing, not just the what, not just here's a to-do list, but actually here's an inspiring outcome to work towards. They've kind of sort of nobody's ever taught these leaders, these organizations, how to set goals and objectives. In corporate land, an objective setting process is pretty much a to-do list in my experience, rather than these are the outcomes we're aiming to hit, how are we going to get there, and have an engaged interactive conversation about how do you want to get to this point, as opposed to here's a list of stuff, go and do it. The setting your own outcomes, being involved in that, being part of that process and deciding the route you're going to get to your destination, for most people is far more inspiring than just being given a to-do list of stuff to go and make happen. And it's this very subtle shift, but most organizations that I'm brought in to work with have never been taught how to set goals. And it seems bizarre because we talk about goals and targets all the time, but they don't know how to actually set them in a way which interacts and engages and excites their teams. And then they worry why the teams aren't performing the way they want to. And as I say, most of the leaders are blaming the staff, whereas actually it's the process and the way it's being conveyed through the organization that's the bit that's the easy fix.
Yeah, and just going back to apples and orchards again, Nikki, it's a lovely metaphor you've given us there. I'm sure we're going to be talking about that whole session. The importance of goal setting and the importance of motivating and driving towards that vision and those goals. Yes, absolutely. And counterbalance to that is the effect of the orchard culture, if you like. So if you've just let your orchard grow by default, and you've not really encouraged, an orchard culture that cultivates the apples to grow at their very, very best, then it's that kind of balance, isn't it, between not just pursuing goals and bottom line, but actually bringing people with you, developing a culture that people can work effectively in that, where there's trust, where there's collaboration, where there's safety, where there's collegiateship, I suppose, if that's a word, if that's even a word.
It is now.
It is now. I've just invented it.
I was doing some associate work many years ago, and we came up with the phrase commultural, which is that blend between commercial and cultural.
Oh, I like
You can't,
that.
if you're going to be successful, you can't just focus on one. You need the culture that supports the commercial activities. You need the commercial activities that fund the cultural activities. So those two things have to come together and blend.
I love that. Commultural. Folks, there's a new word that's going to enter the English
Your
dictionary.
word of the day.
Comultural.
When you're doing your food shopping and you see apples, you're going to be thinking about people development when you're walking around the supermarket, and now you're going to be having commultural as the word of the day.
Comultural. Yeah. And my mate, Dr. Ian Price, says this. It should be a word. Brilliant. Absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Just give you a quick break. Birdine, let's just catch up with where folks is.
Okay, we've got Guy. Okay, so Guy's explaining
Oh, the bamboo.
the Chinese bamboo. So he said 5 years every day for 5 years it is watered and looked after. Then it breaks ground and 6 weeks later grows to 90 feet high Chinese bamboo.
Yeah, for years you don't see it, and just under the surface, right, and then suddenly shoots up and pop, and 90 feet in a week, yeah, or whatever. Yeah,
Abraham
wow.
Lincoln said, "If give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe."
Of course, absolutely, yeah. Yeah. There's a phrase for that, isn't there? That we need to sharpen our axe, but we're too busy, right? We don't sharpen the axe, do we?
Yep.
Yeah, very good. I like that. Yeah, what else, Birdie?
Okay. Steve Whittle said, for me, the first place to look when solving problems is in the mirror, at yourself before looking out the window at others.
That is so cool. I love that. I
Nice.
think, Ian Price, who's on listening, he says, well, when you're pointing at someone, it's one finger pointing at them, and there's 3 or 4 fingers pointing backwards, right? Yeah. So there we
Yes.
go. Back to you. Yeah, look in the mirror. Very good, Steve. Like that. Very good.
Dave said, again, I agree, Nikki, the blame game.
The blame game.
So people are playing the blame game, yes, and it's easier to play the blame game.
And it destroys cultures, right? That blame game, Dave.
Yes.
Absolutely destroys cultures. As soon as you start reintroducing the blame game, the culture starts to fall apart because there's no safety, right? No trust.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ian said, word-tastic.
Word-tastic. Oh, that's all coming out today, isn't it? Brilliant. Yeah.
And Guy just told Ian that he's on his game today. Then
lovely.
Maria said, yes, others are our mirror.
Oh, yes, nice. Yeah, but you have to pick it up. You have to be bothered to watch, right? We have to be bothered to watch. That's right. I'm just catching Steve Whittle, who's just joining us for now. Just to let you know, Steve, I've got you in the green room. Just going to keep you there until there's an appropriate moment, okay? Which might be very shortly, actually. So, got you, Steve.
Ian said, love the idea. This is about building foundations and to persist even before we see the green shoots.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah, build and then watch, right? Lovely.
Yeah, and then Guy said many companies should have many mirrors placed in the offices. So we look in the mirror daily.
Yeah, hall of mirrors. That's another problem. Yeah, great. Thanks, Guy.
Yeah. Okay, then we've got Joe. Never blame others for your own failings. You won't gain trust or learn from it.
Yeah, that's so profound, that, Joe. Sometimes when things go wrong, one of the best things you can do is just put your hand up and say, "Yep, that was me," and it builds rapport really quickly when providing people can get past that and kind of go, "Okay, well, what are we going to do about it?" What say you, Nikki?
Yes.
Absolutely. There's a whole question around credibility, isn't there? Particularly as leaders, a leader who can stand and talk about the reality of what's been going on and acknowledge their part in that, and do it from a constructive point of view. So it's not falling into that blame culture, either self-blame or blaming others.
That's right.
It's acknowledging the situation, staying in that sort of grown-up space.
Love it.
And talking with integrity about this is what's going on. This is the authentic situation. Anytime you try and fob people off or brush it aside or kind of deflect, we're quite good as people, aren't we, at picking up those signals. We might not know exactly what's going on, but something's not quite right. We know something's off here.
Yeah.
And as soon as we start questioning that, I think it was Dave put in the chat, wasn't it? It was as soon as you start doing that, the trust goes. You undermine your integrity and your credibility. Mm-hmm. And as a leader, when you've lost your credibility and your credibility with your team, it's really, really hard. It takes a lot of work to win it back. It can be destroyed really quickly.
Yeah, just look at
And so
politics going on at the moment. So
absolutely.
yeah,
So it's just far easier to stay honest, true, authentic, be yourself, show up like it is, and stay in that space, because you haven't got to remember what was the what was last year's or last week's spin on this subject. It's too hard work to remember all the different things that we put in place before. Just stay true to the situation, true to yourself, and tell it like it is, and then it's just easier, because you just show up as yourself each time. You haven't got to try and play a game or remember other stuff.
And remember the lies you've just told and stuff. So yeah, just being genuine, authentic. We talk about that a lot on this show, Nikki. So thank you for that. Just before we get to Steve and the get to know you in 5 slot, just want to bring up the poll we did. We always do a poll to back up the build up to the event. Just trying to find it now. Where's a poll gone? Here we go, poll data. There we go. There we are. And Nikki, we asked the question, if I can just read this out. When it comes to growing your business, have you got a coach now? Ever engaged one? Considered hiring one? Or no way, Jose, not for me, matey. So, and there's the percentages there. So what say you to that then, Nikki?
It's a really interesting split, isn't it? There are some who have worked with a coach and aren't currently, which is absolutely fine, because the whole point of coaching, it's not consulting where we're there and we're part of the business. We are outside of the business, wanting it to get to the point where it stands on its own 2 feet and doesn't need us. We're constantly working ourselves out of a job, which is a weird career. But that's kind of,
it is, it's very true.
Coaching has seasons, and we will work with them for a while.
On.
I've got loads of clients who come for me for a few months, and then they'll go off and do things, and then they'll come back and go, can we do another block? And that's absolutely fine. And so that's sort of top two responsive. We've got 63%. So nearly 2/3 people here are either currently or have worked with a coach in their business. So I guess we're kind of preaching to the choir a little bit in terms of an audience who get the importance of this and get the value of it. And then we've got a group who are considering it or have considered and are thinking about where might this be of value. And it's absolutely fine if it's not for everyone. When I meet somebody, the first thing we do is we have a chat to say, is this the right time or the right solution? If people want a consultant who's going to come in and tell them what to do, they do not need me. They need to go and find a consultant, and that's fine. I'd rather they found somebody who was a good fit. And as I say, it isn't always the right solution for everybody. People need to be in the right space, and the business needs to be at the point where it's going to be of value. I have this mantra that I ask myself in the mornings when I get up. I go, right, where can I add value today? And I don't want to be anywhere where I'm not adding value. So
isn't that lovely? Get up in the morning and ask yourself, where am I adding value? Perfect. So you can go to work whistling and come home singing. Nikki, how nice is that? Lovely. Right, let's give everyone a quick break for a minute. We're going to enter into the intermission time, folks. We'll come back to the comments as well, so keep them coming. We won't lose those. We'll come back to those. So let me just introduce the Get to Know You in 5 slot, and I'm just going to pick Steve up and just assign him into a space. So yeah, there we go. So here's our jingle. Lovely. So yeah, a bit about our sponsors. Your DMS. They are specialists in document management solutions with over 20 years of experience in document management, the DM industry. At Your DMS, our knowledge, say Your DMS, and ability to translate and deliver technology to simplify the way organisations work has been proven over and over again, and effective time and time again as well. And as we make things more efficient, say DMS, we can also save time and money and enhance your engagement with your customers and your suppliers. So there we go, and let's just welcome. Where are we? So Get to Know You in 5. Let's hope we've got Steve in the room. There he is. How you doing, Steve?
Hey, how you doing? Thanks for having me.
Hey, great. Are you right? So, Steve, you've just finished a marathon, right? So you did the London Marathon.
Yes, yesterday. So Sunday, which was fantastic. It was 26 miles of smiles, high fives, and sweets. It was great.
Smiles, I bet. Yeah, I'll bet at that 26th mile it didn't feel like smiles. Well, after 26 it might have done.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's, I don't know how I feel about it right now because I'm looking back and I'm thinking, actually, I don't think it was as bad as I thought it was. But I have told people now if they ever see me ring again, kill whatever's chasing me. So
I love that. So, as I mentioned earlier, Steve is Cooper Parry's Events and Experiences Lead. And he's talking to us today about a very serious and important subject that he needs our help on, folks. Very, very serious subject. It's called Strength to Talk, which is about helping people, especially men, to talk about their issues rather than take their own lives. Right, Steve?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So there's a really great guy called Scott Sivia who has a few times nearly taken his own life. So we call it completing suicide because we don't say committed anymore because I don't know if people know this, but committed because taking your own life used to be a crime.
Yeah.
So and that's why they called it that. But I think most people know that. Anyway, so he nearly completed it a couple of times, and he has a really great story to tell. And it wasn't until he spoke to a few other people that he realized that actually listening to other people's stories made him recognize that he wasn't alone and that actually that shared experience helped him. So he then, I'm speaking to quite a few people, curated a load of stories, brought them all together, and off his own back created a book, which he uploaded to Amazon. And by his own, he'll admit it himself. It's he's done this himself with no experience whatsoever, and he feels that he could have done it much better. But it is available on Amazon. We know it's saved lives because people are contacting us and saying, this is the impact it's had on me. Thank you very much. At the end of every chapter, maybe I should describe this a little bit better. It's a series of stories from individual men who haven't necessarily tried to complete suicide, but they've got a mental health problem that they've had to overcome. It's affected their lives, their relationships, their everything about them. But finding the strength to talk about it has helped them be a much better, valuable person and recognize value within themselves. And I contributed it to myself, and I got. I would really have struggled to have told anybody this, before reading this book, and seeking help. In fact, earlier this year, in January, I nearly took my life again.
Gosh.
And this was after I'd already contributed my book, so it never really goes away. But then I found the strength to talk again, and I found much better help, and I'm in a good place. So our mission is to now get this book published into paperback. And the reason why that's so important is we're getting lots and lots of mothers and wives contacting us saying, can we have a paperback version of this book? Because at the end of every chapter, there's like a reflection set of questions that people can fill out, but you can't do that on a Kindle. So they want to have a paper copy. They can write a message in and give to somebody that they care about.
Wonderful.
Or leave it hanging around the house because they've got boys. They've got maybe have 3 sons, and they'll say, well, listen, I want my son to find this. And then possibly read a chapter that might inspire them to talk, which would be, absolutely fantastic. And so our goal is to raise £7,500 to have a proper publisher look at this book, who they've already discounted all of their rates for us to get it much cheaper. And then we can get, by December, a paper copy available to people to buy from Amazon, so in time for Christmas. And it also gives us an opportunity to have it all corrected and made better, because there's certain things that you have to do when talking about this subject that we haven't really thought about and not done. And the other great thing would be that we've got an opportunity now to add stories. We have a lot of people now who want to share their story. We're especially young men. Most of the people in this book are in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, but now we've got people who are millennials and Gen Z who are coming forward with their stories, and we want to share that as well.
Yeah, it's such an important topic, this, Stephen. I read somewhere or saw on TV, a program about this, and the guy that was introducing it was talking about his mate that he never knew, had completed suicide, as you say, and he was really, remorseful, obviously, about losing his best friend, but he never knew. And so his advice was to anybody, look, ask once how people are, but ask them a second time and maybe even a third time, and you might get an honest answer, because he might have been able to help his friend in a time of need. And that's
No,
very reflective on what you were
right.
saying, Steve.
No, you're absolutely right. I wrote, from my experience earlier in January, for Suicide Awareness Day, which was in September, I wrote the story of what I had done and presented it to Derbyshire Live, which was, they went out to 80 countries around the world. And I said in that story, when I told the story about a lady called Mel, who I work with, who had actually sat me down, and she's my boss, and I thought, I'm getting fired now because it has started to affect my work. And actually, she just let me burn myself out the whole time. And she just kept saying, I don't care about your work. I just care that I can see that you're not right. If you don't talk to me, talk to somebody.
Wow.
And then she was the real hero of the story, because she actually found the strength to fight that fear of rejection, and just keep asking the question, because she knew it wasn't right. And when I shared this story with the company, the amount of people who came up to me and said, I would never have imagined that from you, because I'm always the guy who's making jokes and everything else. No one
knew.
Because I hide behind this facade. And that's it.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, it's sent tingles down my spine. Really has. Nikki, what thoughts have you got listening to this? And Berdine, let's all join in. And you, as the audience, join in.
I'm absolutely in agreement, and it's such an important subject. So I love that. That the book can be available for people to hand around. And you're absolutely right. So many people are walking around with a mask, this facade that we all hide behind at some point. And for some people, that's a daily thing. They put the mask on in order to cope with the outside world. And we've no idea what's going on behind everyone's mask unless we take time to sit and ask. I have my really, really simple thing that I do with all of my leaders is have a curious conversation with somebody in your organization. Just sit down and say, I'm curious, what's going on for you today? Forget about work, forget about the job, forget about what you're doing. Just sit down and ask another person, I'm curious, how's things today?
Yeah, it's just what you said as well, Steve, isn't it? Yeah, sorry, Nikki,
right.
carry on.
It's really good. Curious conversations.
Curious conversations. There you go. That's Nikki's tip for the day for you. Yeah, what say you, Berdine? Any thoughts?
I just absolutely love that, we always focus on women also more outspoken than men. Men try to hide behind this masculinity, and they don't want to talk about things. I mean, my father went to the army, and I don't know what happened there. He won't talk about it. No one's allowed to know. And, men also don't want to go seek help at a psychologist or psychiatrist, because then they're deemed as weak. And I just absolutely love that they can sit at their own time and go through a book and just read through it and jot down their own notes and, try to get out of their own head that way. I just absolutely love that.
Yeah, thanks, Berdine.
Well, I think it's important that I note that I'm not a men's rights activist or anything else like that. I'm a humanist, and I believe that mental health and suicide is across the board. But the reason why I'm focusing on men is, you're saying, Berdine, is they have the biggest problem. Women have this superpower of being able to shoot.
Nice.
There's an interesting fact that women are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide than men, but men are twice as likely to complete it, because they choose such horrific ways of doing it to make sure that it doesn't fail. So we need to talk to more men, and it is a systemic problem as well as a cultural problem. Men are constantly being told to man up, pull your socks up, be the provider, be the guy, and you see on social media all the time. There's a fad going around at the moment, which starts off quite funny, but then I heard this one way of it, and it was awful, where you grade somebody, you say, oh, this man's a 10, and then you'll go, but then you find out he cries at films, and then they go, oh, he's a 2. So it's and it's that could have been a funny joke if they said, oh, he's a 10, but you drive a Ford Escort, and you go, oh, okay, maybe he's a 3. That's funny, but when you emasculating people because they have feelings, then that becomes a problem.
Yeah, I cry at films, so there we go. I'll put my hand up to that one for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's it's the most beautiful thing for me to see a man being able to show their emotions. Because I grew up in a house where men aren't allowed to show their emotions. So it's the most beautiful thing for me when they can actually be in touch with their emotions and show it to the world and not be afraid of doing that.
Yeah.
And I think something that's important to remember, which Steve will know well from as a mental health first aider, is that we're all on a scale. How healthy our mental state is a scale, and some of us might be okay one day, and something happens, and we're not okay the next day. We might have taken that first step along the scale, and depending on how we are supported and assisted at that point, we might go back to being okay, or things might carry on down that scale. And that's where just having a check-in with people, these curious conversations, just checking in, how are things? We don't know when something's happened that's just taken people into that slightly more vulnerable state, and it's just important that we look out for each other, I think.
Totally.
Nick, you're so right, Nikki. I got two really good points about that. Is once I was someone described to me as having a mental health problem is like having a cold. Sometimes you've got a cold and sometimes you haven't, and we all suffer with this. We all suffer with this in our lives over a period of time, but we might not always label it as that. But what's really interesting, I thought, was you did mention I'm a mental health first aider, and up until recently, I was the only male mental first aider in our whole company. And I tell you how bad the stigma is. When I first qualified, I spoke to a guy who said, "Oh, listen, I might need a little bit of advice. Do you think this is an issue?" And we sat and we spoke. Other people saw him speaking to me, females, and so this is not a dig at females. I was just saying you wouldn't expect females to do what I'm about to say. When he went back to the table, they said to him, "Oh, so you feeling a bit? You're having a chat with Steve," and you're like, and they made a joke of it, and they were like, it's all bants. Other men heard him say that, and now it took a while again to build up for men to start then approaching me again.
Yeah, indeed,
Yeah.
because of the psychological
Because they
safety.
thought, well, that's what everyone must think then.
Yeah, spot on, Steve. Listen, we're doing the Get to Know You in 5 slot, and we're talking about male-assisted suicide, and Steve's on a mission to help resolve that. Just a couple of comments just before we get on to when we take a little bit of a lighter view of this, but just looking at some of the comments. Where are we, Birdie, with some of the comments here? Let's just have a few of these while we finish
I
this.
just have guys saying, "Steve, stay strong, brother. Spread your great message."
Brilliant.
And
perfect.
then Jonas commented on Dave's thing. Caroline said, "Have you heard of Assist? I did training with them. It's a suicide prevention first aid course, and I found it really helpful as part of my business and coaching clients. May be helpful for ideas or structure for the book."
Thank you.
Joe said, "Not everyone can see pain behind the eyes."
Yeah.
Then Caroline said, "I believe that all management should invest in ASIS type training."
Spot on.
Maria said, "Steve, you are so brave, and now your experience is going to save others."
There you go.
Maria said also, "Yes, I notice a lot of female coaches focusing on women only. I coach both. I have a son as well as daughters, and I can see the child in all of us." Jonas said, "But the question is if we men hide behind our masculinity, or if it is the society that expects it. I'm often told that I am too honest and naive." There's a bunch going on. Maria said, "Awful games on TikTok. My daughter's playing a game where it starts at least I'm not."
Yeah. Terrible games. Yeah. Thank you. That's
Guy
useful.
had to go.
Yeah.
Maria said, "It gets quite insulting and ends up causing upsetting arguments as teenagers aren't quite emotionally equipped for this."
Spot on.
Yeah. So, and then there's I'm just going to skip through. That's Laurie's. Shane said, well done. It is proposed that people who die by suicide live with two psychological states over time: lack of belonging and a perception that the world would be better off without them. These two states build a desire, and the ability to go through with it comes from a third realization that they are not afraid to die. We can intervene in 1 and 2 and break the silence and play an active role in prevention. These talks are brilliant because they make us aware.
Thank you. Yeah,
Okay.
let's just focus just briefly on. So you've got some action plans here that you want us to get involved with here. So yeah, we talked about biggest killer men under 50, and the book can save lives. Talk strength to talk. Tell us a little bit about this, Steve, and what we need to do.
Okay, so you can follow the link in the posted link in my bio or on my Twitter, and
Yep.
it will take you to a GoFundMe. We are doing our best to raise £7,500, and that
Send it
means
there.
then the book can be made whole, if you like. We can
Yeah.
add chapters and then get it into paperback. And if we can then, and if your company wants to get involved, we know that. They make a donation on behalf of the company. We'll credit you and everything in the book, and you'll also you can obviously write it off tax-wise, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the great thing is that you get the more you donate, you'll get some copies of the book, and you'll even get an opportunity for one of the speakers to come to your company and do a talk to the company and trying to get your people more engaged in mental health as well. So
Brilliant.
it'd be amazing if you could get in touch with me and see how you can help. It would be awesome.
And so we've got this call for action here. A £50 donation will you receive a copy of the book as a thank you. £100 you'll receive 5 copies of the book so you can help other people. And so it goes on, 500, 1,000, 2,500, which are the bigger corporate donations there, Steve, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Smashing. Okay, so there you go, folks. Hopefully we can get a link in the feed shortly for that. So thanks, Steve. I hope that's been a good shout out for you. Steve, we'd love to have you on the show to talk about this more seriously, or the Scott Sivia would be useful. Well, we're trying to arrange that, aren't we, Steve? So,
yeah, we are. Scott's through. We've just got to get him a date now.
Yeah, great. Okay, so that's going to be a definite then at some point. So watch out for that. So just to lighten the mood again. So here's the get to know you in 5 slots, Steve, just so we can finish on a different mood for you. So. We've got 5 questions here, quick fires, and get to know you in 5, right? So what 3 words would you use to describe your leadership style, Stevie?
I lead, challenge, and I communicate.
Oh, lead, challenge, and communicate. There you go. So, and what superpower would you like? You mentioned female superpower being the gift to talk.
Yeah, I really struggled with this. So I asked everybody around me and said, listen, if you had to describe my superpower, what would it be? And it was a mixture of that I care about what I care about everything I do. Or that I get shit done.
Shit done. Yeah, care about getting shit done. Think about joining the two up together. I would say, Steve, in our conversations that we've had, you come across as a very, very caring person who's got a lot of empathy. And great that you get shit done as well. Now, Stevie's one of these people that's got a stand-up desk, and he also he can walk while he's talking. He's got one of these ped machines, right, Steve?
Yeah, the company got a couple of treadmill desks.
Brilliant.
So that's pretty cool.
Love that. So what's on your bucket list, Stevie?
To fly in a Spitfire.
Oh, yeah. Well, in Chelsea, they've got Spitfires flying overhead every day. Costs about £2,000 apparently. So there you go. But it's possible. Yeah, lovely. So there you go. Favourite band, Steve?
It was a toss-up between The Cure and Depeche Mode.
Cure or Depeche Mode. Yeah, we got nods there. And top 3 business or leadership tips that you can pass on that you've helped you in your career, Stevie.
Always start with the end in mind. So whatever.
Oh, yes. Yeah, love that.
Obviously, and the end might always change, but always focus on what that end might be. The next one would be keep the end in mind. So whatever you're doing, what is the end? So start with the end in mind, keep the end in mind. And then the last one is no matter what happens, do the next right thing.
Do the next right. I love that. Yeah. And a bit of love in the room for you. Maria Jeff says, thank you, Steve. And Caroline says, thank you for being so brave, Steve. And good luck with your fundraising. So hopefully we can help you out there too, Steve. As I said, the links are either there now, I can't see, or they're coming shortly. So thanks again, Steve. Brilliant to have you on the show.
No problem. It's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Cheers for now, Steve. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Cheers now.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Lovely, fantastic. So serious subject there, folks. I'm back to Nikki now. So I hope you all found that interesting and useful interlude, a very important interlude. So a more serious one this week. And now back to the show flow again, and with you too, Nikki. So we're talking about coaching, business coaching. So yeah, let's just, how do we get the best out of our people and those that we collaborate with then, Nick? Let's just bring on the better scene.
We've got all of the things that Steve was talking about are so integral in what we're talking about, growing people to grow business. We have to look after our people, understand what's going on for them, just checking in. How are you? How are things going? What's happening? I know this old phrase that says, don't bring your problems to work. Actually, I need to know if you've got problems that are going to be affecting you, because whilst we try and compartmentalize, stuff is happening and stuff is going to impact our productivity, our mindset, all of those things. So actually, rather than trying to just say, oh, man up or put your problems at the door, let's have a conversation and see how can we support people, so the workplace is not adding to whatever stuff they're trying to deal with. I once worked at an organization where some of those who know me for many years know that I've been through the whole stressed, burnt out finance director bit, and it was no fun. And in that organization, one of my colleagues was signed off with stress for 2 weeks, and when they came back, the only thing that was different was there was an invisible sign over their head saying this person can't cope, and they were just labeled as not up to it. There was no attempt to improve things, and I thought, well, I'm blowed if they're going to do that to me. They're not labeling me like that, which is why Wild Empowerment was born in the first place, because I thought there's got to be a better way of dealing with situations and assisting people. And I love those. There are a couple of quotes that I shared with Andrew in advance of today from Simon Sinek. I am a big fan of Simon Sinek. The Leaders Eat Last, which is one of his books. I love this approach to leadership, that you take care of your team, feed your team first, and then the leaders get to sit down for dinner. And he said a couple of things which I've loved, which is, if you hire people because they can do a job, they'll work for your money. But if you hire people who believe in what you do, they will work for you with their blood, sweat and tears. It's that difference between caring for the people and them knowing that you care for them, that you've got their back. They will go the extra mile for you. It's a two-way thing, though. We can't just demand it of people. It has to have that two-way connection.
Love that.
And go on.
No, carry on, Nikki.
And I was just going to add a couple of the other quotes. They kind of all fit together. If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, and do more, they become more. And that's you as a leader. You are leading by inspiration. He says there's only two ways to influence human behavior: to manipulate it or inspire it. So we can tell people what to do, which is the manipulation, or we can inspire them as leaders in the organization. They know that we've got their back. They know that we value them. They know that we are there to support them to be the best apple tree in the orchard, as it were. And we're there and if we've got that culture where the human beings feel valued and are growing and are being, if we say to somebody, I want the best for you and I don't want anything in return.
Beautiful.
How does that make someone feel?
How does that make? Yeah, exactly. So back to those curious conversations again, and so important at the leadership level, and if your business needs to kind of develop this kind of caring, empathetic attitude with people, with leaders particularly, so that people feel valued. And it's a different world that we're living in today, post-pandemic, where we've got to make different strides, and the businesses that will make the future, I believe, that are those that will make a difference with their people, right, Nikki? And definitely. Massively important part of it. Now, there's we're just coming to the end very shortly, but I'd love to see if there's any questions from the audience for you, Nikki, while we just go into looking at what your book again, and a call to action for you. So this is an opportunity to ask some questions from Nikki. So please queue up your questions. There's a slight delay in the feed, so we'll pick those up in a minute. Okay, let's just get so we talked a little bit about your book, but here's the website that goes with your book. Just quickly talk us through this, Nikki.
Yeah, so I mentioned my 5 pillars of a profitable business, which is a bit of a mouthful. They're 5 pillars. Product purchasers, people, plan and processes. And the ebook, it's a 20-page ebook. It goes through each of the 5 pillars, and there's some little gems and nuggets in there of things to do. So it's there. It's a freebie. It's I wrote it a few years ago, and it has been I've had an awful lot of really nice comments back, which is lovely. So if anybody wants to go and see where the people fit into the whole concept of business coaching, the pillar number 3, slap bang in the middle of all organisations, then feel free to go and grab a copy of the ebook and have a peruse and let me know what you think.
There you go. You can have a curious conversation with yourself with Nikki's book. So there you go. So thank you. And then you just wanted to talk to us about your redirect sessions, which you've discounted for Leaders Live. Tell us about this, Nikki.
I have. This is
exciting.
a special one. This is so special for Leaders Live that there isn't even a landing page for it. this is how
so
secret
new.
this is.
Yeah.
Your secret offer. The review, reset, redirect. It's kind of fits in with what we've just been saying, actually, which is a session. It's creating that space for leaders that we talked about. That valuable window where it's all about them. Nobody else is involved. It's a completely confidential, private space. Nobody will know we've had this meeting if you don't tell them. And it's a review, reset, redirect. So we'll review what's going on right now. It's that curious conversation. What is going on right now? Reset whatever's going on for today's priority, because just as we've just been saying, you start with the end in mind, but the end might move depending on what's going on today. So resetting the goals and then redirecting those intentions, the plans, the actions. So whatever course corrections are needed to keep things on track. And that's normally including the VAT. That's normally 450 quid, but for Leaders Live, 307.5. So the best way to do that is connect with me here on LinkedIn, hunt me down. There's only one Wild Empowerment, even if there are lots of Nikki Wild. So I'm very easy to find on LinkedIn. Connect with me, DM me in LinkedIn and just say you were on the live this morning. And if you book this during October, to be taken in October, November, then you can have it. I'll cover the extra cost.
Thank you. Lovely. Wow. There you go, folks. You've heard it here first. So there you are. Nikki, thanks ever so much. And just a quick reminder for you just to get your questions in shortly. So very, very shortly, please. So pop some questions in the feed. So before I get on to what's next week, let's just focus a little bit on, just a little bit about Leaders Live. And thanks again, Nikki, for enlightening us today with an extraordinary conversation. And we've loved having you on the show again, my friend Nikki. And brilliant to have Steve on the show as well. This show will be on podcast too, surely, not just the replay, but also the podcast. Give us about 24 hours for that. We've got load sharing in South Africa for Berdine and her team to get stuff sorted. So that's power cuts in our language. So yeah, and it looks like we may be having the same thing in the UK too from yesterday's announcement, so we will see. So please also join our LinkedIn Leaders Live group and keep the conversation moving over there, and join us and follow us on our Leaders Live company page as well. We're trying to grow that so we can go live on that as well, folks. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. That's really helpful. Bernie will put all the links in the chat again very shortly. And before I get on to what's in the next week's show, quick reminder that Leaders Live is a free show for all leaders, directors, managers and entrepreneurs who are interested in business growth through edutainment and enjoy taking part in extraordinary conversations. And we've just had a really extraordinary conversation today, haven't we? So and together in this community we aim to make the world better, folks, and we want to bring a spirit of fun, of freedom, of love and joy, and the feel good factor in our working lives. And we've just been talking about that in various guises, including the stuff that Steve was talking about. Actually it's really important that we feel good in ourselves and our work. So that's a little bit about Leaders Live, and just very quickly a little bit about me. So if you want to know a little bit about what I do commercially, I run a team leadership and development consultancy called PDX, and please contact me if you need any help with your business to develop effective leadership, sales and operations teams so people can operate at their very best, folks, and run successful, profitable businesses. I do that through specialised development programs like high performing teamwork, executive and team coaching, and NLP for business diplomas, and I fix teams. So Nikki fixes people, I fix teams. So that's a little bit about what I do. And in terms of the goosh for next week, folks, Tuesday the 11th at 8:45 a.m. UK time, that's UK time, we'll be hanging out with Sophia Schluger, Wealth Management European MD of Amber Group. Can't wait for this one. And Sophia will be chatting about Crypto 101, folks. We're going to dare go into the crypto market and helping us to understand what crypto actually is in simple terms. And, is it worth investing in, and crypto for dummies, and, if it's a good investment or not. I think that's going to be really interesting. Ooh, and wow. So this and a whole lot more, folks. And just checking if there's any questions in the feed. We haven't got any more questions in the feed. So
nothing is pulling through on eCam, Andrew, so
okay, no
you
problem.
won't see it. Maria asked, in your opinion, are external coaches more effective than internal coaches?
Oh, very good question. Nice one, Maria.
So whilst Andrew and I are external coaches, so of course we are going to say external coaches have their value. For all the things I said earlier on, that it's that impartiality. We have no vested interest whatsoever, no emotional attachment to what's going on. So the value of an external person is that separation between the stuff that's being worked on and the person who's facilitating that as the coach. Internal coaches also have their value because they are knitted into the fabric of what's going on. So they're living it day in, day out. They're in the organization. They know what it feels to be like to be an employee in that organization because they are one of said employees. So I think both have their place, and it depends on what it is that the organization is looking to achieve as to which is going to be most effective.
Yeah, very well said. And also the nice thing about getting external coaches is they because we work with lots of different organisations, we see lots of different things in lots of different places. And so you get the experience of picking up that teamwork stuff that is external and not comes with the baggage of internal coaching. So but both have their place. And I've just heard Berdine's cockerels. Birdie lives on a farm and there's cockerels in the background, which is just fantastic.
Yeah, well, we've got 10 new chicks running about as well. This morning when I went outside, the grass was just moving and there's all of the chicks running off to the mother, and I'm like, oh goodness gracious, here we go again.
Brilliant. It's actually become a problem. They've been so good at breeding chickens, it's becoming a problem. So there we go. So plenty of eggs in the morning though, my guess. So there we go. So there we are. This and a whole lot more, folks. We can't wait for next week. And thank you again, Nikki, for a great show. And it's been great to hang out with you all today. Let's just hit the wrap-up scene if I can find it very quickly. So, it's been great to hang out with you all, gang. And thanks so much for being part of this show. Thanks so much for helping to create the community vibe. We can't wait. And we can't do this without you, folks. We can't wait for next week as well. Podcast will be out shortly, as I said, and in the meantime, this is a wrap, folks. So from our hangout guests, Nikki, Berdine and me, we wish you a great weekend ahead. We're going to just pop into the Discord room just to wash up with our VIPs and exclusive guests, so you can join us there if you want, if you've got a link. And in the meantime, that's a wrap, folks. Cheers for now. See you next week. And thanks again, Nikki. Cheers, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank
Good to see everyone.
Bye-bye.
There we go. Well done, everybody.
It goes so quickly.
Doesn't it just? Yeah.
That flies by.
Oh, doesn't it just? I'm just trying to get into Discord again. So there we go.
Do I need another Discord link, or can I just
just hop back in again, I think, Nikki. So it should be okay just to hop back in. So I'm just trying to find it myself, actually.
Oh, it's remembered me.
Oh, it does. It's very clever.
Now how do I find where we were before?
Discord backstage rowdies. There we go.
I've got to find Leaders Live first. I've signed into Discord. How do I find
Discord? Let me just have a look.
I don't know how Discord works.
No, nor do we really. We're still sort of trying to work it all out. So there you go.
I'm looking for a find or a search or something, and I don't know how to find Leaders Live.
Let's just undo that. Let's just drop back in. There we go. Lovely. Backstage rowdies. There we go. How are we doing, everybody? We're just trying to work out how to get back in again for Nikki, so just bear with us while we do that.
Yeah, it seems like Coops has decided to go in another room.
Oh, I see. Coops is in another room, is she? She'll come into... Oh, Coops, you're in the wrong room, mate. Let me just go and grab Coops just for a minute. So I'll just say, you're in the wrong room. Hopefully that will get to her.
How do I'm baffled. I don't know how to find Leaders Live. I'm
Jonas,
on the
can you
front
help her
page
out?
of Discord. I'm in Discord's front page and I've no idea.
On the very left, there should be a group of little icons with the Leaders Live thing on there.
I haven't even
Yes.
got... I'm clearly in the wrong place. It
Can we-
remembered me,
Yeah.
but I don't know.
Let's see where you are.
Ah, search. There we go.
Hey, there you are. Right, so... There you go, Coops. How you doing?
I'm right. Are you all right?
Yeah, we're all right. Yeah, you all right? We're all right.
Good.
Just hope you're all right.
I'm all right.
All right.
I've run out of tea though.
Oh, well, yeah. Oh, God, yeah. Same here. I'm down to the dregs myself, so there we go. Yeah. Ah, well, good show
Thanks,
today, wasn't it? Yeah.
Really enjoyed that. It was good.
Yes.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting subject in the interlude, wasn't it? I thought we normally would do that in half the time, but such an important subject, it just felt right just to kind of give it a little bit more time, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Could be a fun, but not fun, but a great subject for longer August.
Yeah, I'm talking
I think you guys are still live on LinkedIn.
Oh, are we? Ooh.
I was going to say the same. Just going to say.